Hello everyone, welcome to another Versus Video Deck Tech. I am BBD alongside
Chris Van Meter.
And today we are going to be battling the Gentleman's format, some call it.
Yeah.
A Gentleman's format?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're playing Legacy. I don't know what you want to call it, but actually, wait.
I was going to say, I think you only have
Modern?
8 cards in your deck that aren't legal in Modern. 12 cards.
12 cards. Yeah, that's probably right. Wait, is this card legal in Modern and Soul Artifact?
It is.
Ooh, is it legal in Standard?
Technically.
How about M15 Block Constructed?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to be battling with Affinity, and yes, I only have 12 cards in my deck that are not Modern legal, so this looks a lot like a Modern deck. But those 12 cards are actually very good.
Yeah, they
it's your
basically
mana
make the
base. It's your entire mana base. So it's all these artifact lands that were banned in Modern, alongside Ancient Tomb, which
Would be banned in Modern.
Yeah, would certainly be banned in Modern. Ancient Tomb lets you cast all these cards much earlier than you normally would, such as things like turn 2 Tezzeret is a fairly easy thing to do in this deck.
Yep.
So that's where a lot of the power comes from. Having access to a land like Ancient Tomb also then allows us to play a card like Tezzeret, and then Tezzeret provides a lot of extra power. And Legacy just looks a lot different than Modern does, too. You can run like 4 Master of Ethereums in your Legacy deck, because a lot of Legacy decks don't play removal spells. So this guy is just going to be like a 10/10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be bigger than, it's just going to be much better than a card like Etch Champion, which might actually be better in Modern, because people have so much removal and Abrupt Decays and things like that.
Yep.
And while there's still like Swords of Plowshares and Abrupt Decay in Legacy, it's not, every deck's not playing those cards. Some decks you just want a country 10/10 on turn 2 or whatever.
Pretty big.
I mean, he won't be a 10/10 yet, but you know,
When he
by
attacks, he will.
the time you attack with him, he probably will be. Other than that, like all the lists that I saw had a little bit different mana base. I added a second Inkmoth Nexus, and I added 3 Glimmer Voids because I felt like we actually have a lot more colored spells than most Affinity decks do, within Soul, Master, and Tezzeret and Thoughtcast. So I wanted more ways to cast those cards, so I cut like Ancient Dens and things like that for Glimmer Voids. I'd rather be able to cast my spells than have like a couple more random artifacts.
Yeah.
So I figured that was better. And then I cut a couple of random cards that I saw on lists and added in a Steel Overseer. I think this card's probably really good. I feel like a lot of Affinity lists maybe actually even want like 4 of this. I don't know.
Maybe.
I haven't played Affinity and Legacy, so I'm kind of just rocking the pure theory at this point. But I know this card's a complete house in Modern. So, and then in Soul Artifact, which I just wanted to try it out. I mean, it's got to give it a shot.
It's flashy.
Seems sweet. So, and then I cut a Thoughtcast to facilitate that, which I know Thoughtcast is kind of sometimes a sacred cow in this kind of a deck, but I actually think the card's kind of bad in Affinity because your goal is to just like flood the board and present, you know, this powerful board state as early as you can. And Thoughtcast, I know it seems weird, but you're just wasting a mana to draw 2 cards. Like I know it's only 1 mana to draw 2, but like when you're drawing an Ornithopter and like a Vault of Whispers, you're not actually like really drawing into that much power. Like the power in this deck lies in how fast you get on the board. So I'm not a huge fan of cards like Thoughtcast in this kind of a deck, and I feel like moving forward, I mean, we'll see how the games play out and so forth, but I definitely think it's possible that this deck wants 0 Thoughtcasts at all.
Yeah. I mean, we see in the Modern Affinity decks, you know, last year they all had 4 Thoughtcasts, and now as we're continuing to progress, the numbers of Thoughtcasts are getting smaller, and the Galvanic Blasts are going up because you really just want to kill your opponent, not draw 2 cards.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like a lot of Modern decks now just play 0 Thoughtcasts. So.
Yep.
But other than that, I mean, it's Affinity. It's the same deck we see in Modern, so nothing too crazy there. I guess let's go ahead and look at the sideboard and see what we have. All right, we are back for the sideboard, and as you can see, our entire sideboard is also all Modern legal, so this is certainly one of the cheaper Legacy decks that you can buy or build, as you can take your Modern deck and add 4 Ancient Tombs to it. And you have a Legacy deck. Is essentially what it is. So we have a couple of Pithing Needles and 3 Revokers. So we have 5 of this kind of effect. And I love this effect in Legacy. I think this is like one of the most powerful effects you have. One of the reasons Death and Taxes is a good deck is because of Phyrexian Revoker.
Yeah.
And in fact, that is the card I hate seeing the most on the other side of the table when I'm playing a deck like Miracles. I just hate a Revoker. Or a Pithing Needle and Sensei's Binding Top or Jace or whatever. Those are the cards I hate seeing the most. And these cards are also just good against so many other decks too, like shutting off Sneak Attack. Phyrexian Revoker can actually shut off mana abilities, so against like decks like Storm, you can get their Lion's Eye Diamonds or Lotus Petals. You can really
get like Heritage Druid or whatever.
Yeah, you can get like Heritage Druid. There's a lot of things that get shut off by Pithing Needle and Revoker. You can even get your opponent if they don't crack a fetch land in response. You can just name their fetch land. That only works with Needle, since Revoker only works on non-land cards. But
yeah,
there is a lot in Legacy that these cards hit. So it is almost every single deck has something. And then 2 Aethersworn Canonists, those are mostly for like some of the combo decks, Storm type decks, for example. Anything where they're trying to play a bunch of spells on the same turn, Canonist is very good there. Like CBM's probably going to be playing a bunch of spells on the same turn, but his are all artifacts, so we will not be canonisting him. And then Whip Flare, most of the lists I see have 1 or 0 Whip Flares, and that makes no sense to me, because I think Pyroclasm is one of the best sideboard cards in Legacy.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand why Whip Flare wouldn't be exactly the same, considering it's a one-sided Pyroclasm. It kills only your opponent's creatures, so I think this card is fantastic, and it's possible that the deck wants 4. But Whip Flare is extremely good against like Elves, Death and Taxes, a lot of the Delver variants, just decks that could otherwise sometimes be an issue.
Yep.
2 more Etched Champions. Those are for like the bug matchups, the things where they're going to be trying to kill all your guys. Master of Ethereum's not likely to live in those matchups.
Yeah.
But Etched Champion can get the job done.
It's like a colorless True Name Nemesis.
It really is, yeah. And then there's Grafdigger's Cage and Rest in Peace. I like Grafdigger's Cage a little bit more because, 1, it's an artifact. You can be attacking with 5/5 Grafdigger's Cages. Also,
that's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
Like in the Grand Prix Kobe last weekend, there were Sunbeam Spell Bombs that were turned into 5/5s and attacking. That was pretty cute.
That is pretty cool, yeah. Same with Pithing Needle. 5/5 Needles are pretty strong. And Cage is also like, it's a great graveyard hate spell, but it's also very good against Elves is another deck.
Very good against Elves.
Shuts off Green Sun Zenith, Natural Order, and Fetching Dryad Arbor, which is 3 of their most powerful things they can do. And then we have a singular Rest in Peace. We don't use the graveyard at all. Some of our opponents probably do. A lot of them actually. Yeah. So Rest in Peace goes along with Grafdigger's Cage, but it provides a slightly different effect in that it shrinks Goyf and prevents Deathrite Shaman from doing anything, whereas Grafdigger's Cage can't do those 2 things.
Yeah.
So there is upside in Rest in Peace and Grafdigger's Cage in different matchups. But all in all, that's the sideboard. It's pretty straightforward. It's mostly artifacts for our artifact deck. So I'm excited to give this deck a try. We are doing the old mono brown mirror. I'm going to be playing Affinity, and CVM's going to be battling with Metalworker. So we'll see if I can if my 0/1s or 0/2s and 1/1s can stack up against his 8/8s and bigger.
Let's hope not.